Welcome to the world united. Welcome to the world united.
Here we are. So Teresa is a #1 international best-selling author for mass influence, the habits of highly influential people, which has been on the bestsellers list in 7 countries over the past 4 years. 4x international best-selling author Teresa teaches marketing courses around the globe to business leaders and entrepreneurs on how to create massively successful word-of-mouth campaigns. Teresa heads the International Evolutionary Business Council, a global community of speakers and influencers whose mission is to grow the influence of impact-based businesses who are focused on creating conscious, sustainable businesses all over the world. So, Teresa, your topic for today is the spirituality and mass influence. How impact-based businesses can change the world. Thank you so much, Teresa, and over to you now.
So welcome and best wishes, dear Teresa de Grosbois. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Yugandhar, and thank you. So it's just lovely to be here. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us from the world and whenever you are joining us, because I know many people will be listening to these recordings. It's just an honor to be here at this beautiful, beautiful event and sharing a panel with such brilliant and beautiful luminaries. I work with many of these ladies and I have deep, deep respect for all of them. I'd like to talk about mass influence for a moment because it's a topic many people resist. Many business owners resist it. And, you know, we all know the very, very famous saying of Mahatma Gandhi, be the change you want to see in the world. In fact, it's probably posted on posters in university dorms all over the world. Many people have it on little items all over their homes. It's one of the most universal quotes ever stated. And I'd like you to think for a moment about what Mahatma Gandhi really meant when he said, be the change. Because when we think about being the change, it's not just about changing our own lives. It's about being willing to take a stand for change in the world. And I think this is one of the most important topics we can ever have in business. Because a business that declares itself an impact-based business, that you are a business that stands for making other people's lives better or standing for creating a conscious, a more sustainable world, then you are actually the tipping point, the force that creates change in the world. So I think this is one of our most important themes we can ever talk about in business, because one of the things that research shows us is that our own dreams of really making a difference in the world, our own dreams of stepping into leadership, our own dreams of really being a force for change or a force to cause good in the world are actually the scariest things to us in our lives. And that makes sense when you think about it, right? They're your dreams. That's huge, right? And yet there is no one better hardwired in this world to step into your dreams, to make a difference in the world, your dreams to cause change, your dreams to lead a movement than you. If you feel called to right some wrong, to correct some injustice in society, to be a stand for better health for people, whatever your inner calling is, that's actually also going to be the thing that scares you the most. And that's because there's a lot of research now that shows we all create our most significant self-limiting beliefs when we're first learning language, usually somewhere around the age of 2, right? And it's in those first failures in life that we tell ourselves things to make those failures make sense. I can actually remember the moment I created my most significant self-limiting belief. I'm not only a Canadian, I'm from Northern Canada. I actually used to spend my summers in a remote backwoods cabin. We would go in by boat every year, just in time to see the hatching of the little baby mosquitoes. That's really funny in Canada. And when you're in a remote setting like that, your family becomes your entire world. So my family was incredibly important to me. And as the youngest, I was always concerned about whether or not I could keep up, whether or not I might be left behind. And I remember one day we were just back from the cabin, and we're all standing around the kitchen of our very small 100-year-old home. And my cousins are all visiting, and my grandmother's there, and the room is just buzzing with excitement because my grandmother's going to take everyone to the movies, which is a really, really big deal in my family. We never go to the movies because my very religious mother is concerned with the morals of Hollywood movie makers. But my older brother, Ed, has finally convinced my mother that Walt Disney's not the worst guy in the world. And she's agreed to let the whole family go see, wait for it, The Love Bug. And 3-year-old me is just buzzing with excitement when I look across the room just in time to hear my mother say, "Teresa can't go, she's too little." And in that moment of utter devastation, I decide I'm too small to play with the big kids. And like every other human being on the planet who creates a self-limiting belief, I then start spending the majority of my time doing one of two things. I start desperately trying to prove that I'm not too small to play with the big kids, or I'm desperately terrified that I am. Go figure that I should eventually grow up to become an internationally known expert on influence, because at the age of 3, importance became the most important conversation in my life. The interesting thing about our inner dialogue is it can not only be the thing that limits us in life, it can be the thing that most motivates us in life. And often that's a double-edged sword. It's the thing that has us want to pursue change. It's the thing that has us want to pursue significance in some cases. It's also the thing that has us terrified to go there. So one of the things I would encourage you to do is actually do some work to make friends with your inner child. Your inner child is the source of your ego. It's also the source of all your self-limiting beliefs. And when you can learn to fall in love with your inner child, you can actually transform how you see leadership and how you see creating movements in the world. It's hard to think how this is a business topic, but successful leaders all over the world are not in leadership in spite of their inner dialogue. They are in leadership because of it, and because they have learned to have it motivate them and motivate them to actually be someone who steps in to change, steps into influence, steps into leadership so that they can be a force for good in the world. So think about that for a moment. Influence is really nothing more than hundreds of other influential people all talking about you. That's all influence is. It's your relationship with other people who have influence. And guess what? Everyone on this planet has some level of influence. Influence is born out of reciprocity with other people. I love the work of Dr. Shonda Perrin. She talks about reciprocity a lot in her work. And one of the things she talks about is how as human beings, we tend to create cycles of reciprocity with other human beings. And one of the biggest habits that we notice of the highly influential is that the highly influential tend to use influence as the thing they use to create reciprocity in building relationship with other influential people. They will draw attention to their work. They will shout them out on social media. They will offer to interview them. They will offer to host a global parliament on spirituality to give influence for other people. Ask me how many people would freaking crawl through glass for Dr. Yugandhar because he is such a force for change in this world. You know, and many of us on this call, including Dr. John DeMartini, are of the level where they can now pick and choose what speaking engagements they would go on. And anyone in this industry would go on this parliament in a heartbeat because of the force for change it is in the world. So consider, who do you give influence to? Highly influential people routinely give influence to other people who deserve it, other people who are forces for good, other people who are causes for change in the world. And in business, this becomes one of the most important skills you can have, because it's what drives your own mass influence. And when you can influence change, you can actually become part of the tipping point for creating a conscious, sustainable world. One of the reasons I wrote my book, Mass Influence, and one of the reasons I created the Evolutionary Business Council was that I wanted good people, everyday heroes and everyday leaders, to really understand that influence is not this elusive thing out there to be wished for. It's actually simply a set of habits and a set of routines that when you shift your paradigm and go through them every day, you can actually become a more significant force for change in the world. So I highly encourage you to learn these habits. I highly encourage you to step into your own leadership and actually become part of the movement that is creating a more conscious, a more sustainable world. Thank you.